rate of growth annually is 35%, the rate of growth of their profits from airports. In Adani Ports, it's 14% in the last year. So I'm not saying they should not make profits, but exclusively to them, it is a
So are you going
issue.
to look at only one sector, airports, or are you going to look...
Navika.
Yeah.
The point was made that it is not exclusive. It is exclusive. This data shows that most of the contracts that are being given out is to them. You go to any airport today, you would find it Adani. It was not Adani earlier. So it's true. It's true.
Is there a process
you can't
in
refute
place?
that.
Is there a process in
Is there a process in place? Are they tendering so that they can get it? I mean, if they are the best placed, why would they not win?
The whole matter has been checked by the Supreme Court, hasn't it? Anand Ranganathan, is that table there now, the JNU table, now even doubting the Supreme Court? I want to ask.
They have always doubted Supreme Court because they are the judges, they are the jury, they are the executioners. But the point I'm trying to, if tomorrow I start a company for making ports, I am free to compete with Adani. Do you think any sensible person will give me money to make a port? At that exalted level, I mean, tomorrow you're going to say, look, 40% of the world mobile market is taken up by Apple and Samsung. This is crony capitalism. What nonsense is this? If you believe it is illegal, if you believe cronyism going on, go to Supreme Court. Let the Supreme Court adjudicate. You can't just banish the wealth creators.
Mr. Mehrotra, yes.
Even the United States has said that the concentration of the mobile market in the United States is showing that there is precious little competition, that there is a monopolization of the mobile market in the United States.
But
not
if there are
just in
better
India.
products and people buy better products, what's the problem?
Who is preventing us from actually our big corporates to investing in R&D? Does Adani do any R&D? Does Ambani do any R&D?
So who should we give it to? JNU?
No. Yes, of course. Obviously, just like you bring in a molecular biologist or scientist to do economics and teach us Gyan on economics from JNU, Anand Ranganathan, and who's giving us Gyan, who constantly giving us Gyan.
Personal attacks will get personal attacks. So let's end that.
I knew this was coming because
socialism. Socialist. Socialist कह रहे हो?
I saw this yesterday.
तुम्हें मालूम भी है socialist क्या होता है? Define करके बता दो मुझे.
When a communist and a washed up socialist, they cannot rebut on facts. They come personal. It's like tomorrow.
अरे fact ही fact. अरे you are being.
So he countered it with the fact. Samsung and Apple, he countered with the fact.
Samsung and Apple have had a history. Adani Ports have just entered the industry.
Why has Kerala government given them another board?
Don't give it. I'm not giving it.
So because other governments also think they are qualified, which is why they are getting the financial institutions give them the money. Yes, Mr. Nangia joining the debate.
That's the reason what you mentioned. Name me any country in the world where there are few institutions, they actually produce more, they manufacture more. Name any country in the world, they bring capital, they take a risk of the capital. So they will produce. It's a democratic world. If I have money, I will produce. If I have more money, I'm going to produce more. Can you stop me? It's a democratic, open world.
This is not a democratic.
No, just I'm completing it. I'm completing one thing.
President is poor lady. This world is not democratic, and we live in a fascist world, and therefore our GDP has slowed down. Jaggi, please respond.
No, let's be clear. In high capital-intensive sectors, there will be concentration because not everybody can this thing like that. We talk about Ambani and only 5-6 guys getting concentrated. Tell me one thing, if not Ambani, Adani or Tatas or Birlas, who will take on the Amazons and Apples of the world? You think some small MSME fellow is going to take over? No chance. Third thing, in sectors like telecom, nowhere in the world do you have more than 2 or 3 big players. Yes. And the reason is because of the network effects.
Tomorrow you will get Boeing, no? Boeing and why is it the case that it's only Adani?
I'll tell you. I'll tell you why Adani.
Why let's not have one company that is getting it. It's a fact.
It is blasphemy. It is.
So he keeps calling everybody Pol-Pot economist. I would say he's the right reactionary person. Let's not do that. So you
can I finish? No, other 1 second. According to the Pol Pot economist, we must not, it is sacrilege, blasphemous to have only Boeing and Airbus having airplanes.
95%.
Absolutely brilliant argument there. Let me get in Deepak Reddy from the TDP joining the panel this morning. Also joining us this morning is Tehseen Poonawala. Deepak Reddy, a point made by Anand Ranganathan. To those who are questioning, you know, only 5 or 6 big companies doing ports and airports. He says, well, only Boeing and Airbus are producing aeroplanes, so now we should have a democratic world where even JNU should be allowed to make aeroplanes. Does that argument really work? Is that a substantive argument, logical argument?
No, substantive argument is that molecular biology.
1 minute, sir.
Give us gyan on socialism.
Deepak Reddy.
A very good morning, Navika. I mean, if we talk about democracy, Congress party should first start off from get rid of the family and then get democratic there. The truth of the matter is they start attacking Indian business, not just one Ambani or one Adani. We need 10 each for India to be a power in the coming days. So that should be the mindset. So let me give you a couple of figures. Being part of the state government, I've seen that, you know, matters coming up in each of the ministry. What's going on in the present and what is the plans for the next 1 year are also detailedly discussed. Like I'm heading on the skill ecosystem in Andhra Pradesh from the government of Andhra Pradesh. So what's required, you know, the fine details into skilling also, what is required and what is the planning to be done, people from the government of India have discussed. So this is the level of discussion which is going on between the states and the center. But what is surprising is the attack from the India ecosystem, if we see, to hide their setbacks. A lot of schemes which are being given out from government of India, they don't even participate. They don't even take those funds for their states. For whatever reasons best known. So they're willing to sacrifice the development of the state and the people for pettiness and shallow politics. So this is something what we need to look at. But if you look at the trends for the last 5 years or 6 years on n number of things, the foreign exchange, the fiscal deficit, the capital expenditure, and of course GDP, they can say that, you know, there has been a short correction, but we have to look at the global recession and the uncertainties which are beyond our control also, and all other parameters. If you look at the per capita, the urban unemployment which is coming down, the inflation, the foreign direct investment, the NPA levels, I mean, things are going on well. Yes. But on the other side, I would not like to speak like the people from the India ecosystem, because there's not much of change in the rhetoric in the last 10 years. It still sounds the same. If we go back and play what they're talking before each budget in the last 10 years, it would pretty much sound the same. But yeah, there is some issues also which has to be looked at. We have to be honest on that front also, because there is a lot of hue and cry about tax terrorism. And the 2% who are paying the taxes are being overburdened. Yes, we should be looking at that also. One factor which I would like to bring to the front is, like, we can't say everything is good. The manufacturing value added to the percentage of GDP has been dropping. Now, this is an area of concern which we should be looking at.
Certainly, there are concern areas, but let's, you know, there is food inflation, the fact that GDP growth, the fact that manufacturing sector needs to rev up, all of these are points well taken. But good morning to you, Ghanshyam Tiwari, and I want to come to you on the point that everybody in the opposition, let's listen to Sandeep Dixit, let's listen into Robert Vadra, everybody has zero expectations, but right after the budget, they will come out and slam, kuch kiya hi nahi. Bhai, aapki to expectation bhi nahi thi. Agar nahi kiya to kya problem ho gayi? But listen in.
उम्मीद तो इस सरकार से कम ही है। सीतारमण जी, कभी भी मैं उनको चाहूँगा कि वो लोगों के बीच में रहें, लोगों की बात सुनें, और महंगाई पे तो सबसे ज़्यादा मुद्दा बहुत समय से महंगाई का है, और लोग जो इतने मुश्किल में हैं, बेरोजगारी है।
उम्मीद कोई खास नहीं है। इतने सालों से 10-11 साल से बजट दे रहे हैं, अभी तक तो उम्मीद तो कोई बजट खरी उतरी नहीं। यही देखेंगे कि कितना और अपने बड़े इनके जो पूंजीपति मित्र हैं उनके लिए कितने ये और आयाम निकालते हैं। ये क्या करते हैं, कुछ ऐसी चीजें जोर से अनाउंस कर देते हैं जिसमें लोगों को लगता है कि जनहित में, गरीबों के हित में ये बहुत कुछ पैसा दे रहे हैं और पीछे से अपने बड़े बड़े मित्रों को, पैसे वालों को, सबको कहीं ना कहीं ये मदद करते रहते हैं। तो मुझे लगता नहीं है कि आज की बजट भी उनसे कुछ अलग होगी। हाँ, ये है कि दिल्ली का चुनाव चल रहा है, तो दिल्ली के बनस्पत, क्योंकि दिल्ली में भारतीय जनता पार्टी को दिख रहा है कि कुछ वो बन नहीं पा रहे, तो हो सकता है कुछ टैक्स के माध्यम से, कुछ और माध्यम से कुछ लोक लुभावने वायदे करें। इतना ही कह सकता हूं मैं बजट के बारे में।
Well, that's the Prime Minister's convoy arriving at Parliament ahead of the cabinet meeting, and those visuals coming in from Vijay Chowk and going into Parliament. But Ghanshyam Tiwari, no expectations, everything absolutely dark and cloudy. What do you think you would have done if you were Finance Minister?
Good morning, Navika ji. To you, the viewers and fellow co-panelists. As far as Robert Vadra is concerned, he's as big an opposition leader as Jai Shah is a leader of government. So let's focus on the substantive facts. Substantive facts are that this government has reduced competition in key sectors. This government has, even with political stability, it has killed manufacturing. It has not been able to push, even by offering tax cuts to its rich corporate friends, not been able to push their investment in the economy. And it's been on the war foot with the farmers, with the youth, with the people who write exams, with those who want a government by the people, of the people, for the people, rather than by the crony capitalists, of the crony capitalists, for the crony capitalists. So, Batenge Katenge Sarkar will only deliver on the propaganda rather than the substantive thing. How can a government say that we will build Viksit Bharat when even after making JNU, for example, I heard the discussion of JNU as their worst enemy, JNU remains the #1 university. Has Modi University become #1? Has one university in India gone up in international rankings in last 10 years as compared that is boosted by Modi government? You take institutions of India, make them enemy of the country, yet they remain #1. This is the reality. And allies like TDP, which are flip-flop allies, their integrity, their commitment, their conviction does not matter because they are flip-flop allies. They will say that, just like here Deepak Reddy said, oh, manufacturing is bad. Oh, there is no competition. Oh, there is inflation. He said all the wrong things, but he said the government is doing a great job. This is the reality of India, that there is a set of people who are saying things to please BJP, but on the ground, there is nothing happening. As a finance minister,
Rohan Gupta, you are a party that promotes cronyism. That's the charge #1. And secondly, nobody has any expectations from the budget, but definitely they have the right to criticize whatever you do. Please respond.
Navika ji, first of all, this is the budget discussion, and I was expecting all other panelists to talk numbers. They are Alice in Wonderland. They don't know what is the ground reality. That's why even after losing elections after elections, they are not able to understand where the country is going. When Modi ji yesterday spoke about the budget, he spoke about reform, perform and transform. That is the platform for next 25 years. And when it comes to numbers, I am giving you numbers, Navika. The inflation is 4.9% now, which was 5.4, now it is reduced to 4.9%. If you talk about poverty, the reduction of poverty from 29% to 11%. The number of unemployment, the employment have been created, 19 crore new employments, jobs have been created. Can the opposition answer these numbers? No, they don't have answer. The CAGR for GDP 5.7%, which is highest in G20 countries. I'm challenging my opposition friends to question these numbers. You tell me one place where you can find these numbers.
Seen Poonawalla, challenge thrown at you.
Thank you, Navika. There are 3 or 4 things that I want to make substantive, and I've been the only person in the panel earlier on to actually take a stand, not just saying that bring tax rates down and increase the tax net, but I've also said that please bring the corporate tax lower from 22% to 20% and the highest tax slab in direct to 20%. So I am pro-business. I am not a Porsche poor or a Marxist, Maserati or Mercedes Marxist. Having said that, I heard the discussion earlier on, which was very important. important about crony capitalism. Apple and Samsung don't raid people to get facilities. They don't have the agencies working to them to raid people to get facilities.
Adani's and Ambani's do. Are you saying Adani's and Ambani's are raiding people?
I am for wealth creation. Navika, it's very unfair. I've come in after an hour.
No, you make a statement. I will ask you a question on your statement,
Please allow me to make my points. I will answer your question. I really want to make important points, so thank you. Please allow me to make the points. I've come in after an answer. Please allow me to make the points.
Yes, please respond to the question I'm asking, sir. This is not an election rally.
I would have made my other points. I am for wealth creation. Please allow me to make my points. If you don't, I'll keep quiet. You say what you want and I'll answer it. You say it, please.
Come on, answer the question, Tehseen.
No, I didn't hear your question. I'll answer it.
Dekho, I said, do Adani's and Ambani's raid people, because that's what you said. Samsung and Apple don't.
I can speak about the Mumbai airport case, and we all know how the agency was used in the Mumbai airport case and how the airport was transferred. Can I make a more substantive point? I am for wealth creation. I am
Supreme
for money.
Court?
I think money must be created. Yet I'm the only person on this panel who was... Can I please make my point? Yet I was the only person on this panel who was actually talking about creating wealth. The only way wealth will be created and there will be actual democratization of wealth if we concentrate on Web 3.0 and our new generation wealth creators. For example, the UPI, etc. have been a game changer because it's democratized money. If you want to take that reform further, this is where our government is lagging. We have no policy on AI fintech. We have no policy on blockchain. Every single AI fintech is today registering in Dubai. That is a major
All right, you made your points. Long 3-minute points. Anand Ranganathan.
What is true needs to be said. I admire Tehseen. He is not a Marxist. He is not a loony guy. He wants the corporate tax to be reduced, and that is the way to create wealth and the nation to prosper. And I'm so happy, by the way. I echo what earlier someone said. JNU is doing very well. And that the reason for that is, of course, scientists out there and also some deadwood Pol Pot economists who've retired. But I want to make one point, because Hina talked about food inflation. Now, you see, yes, it is a very 8.3% or 8%, whatever. But if you keep the means of production the same, archaic, medieval, if you don't increase your productivity in food, if you keep the same practices that have been lagging the sector behind, it's going to lead to more inflation. Because your products will be the same and you give more money. When you give tax relief, you will have more money to spend. That will increase inflation. Unless we do agricultural inform, that is the problem with Pol Pot economists.
But there are supply chain issues. There are supply chain issues which can be addressed. Monica Hallan.
Look, because there is a whole lot of political discussion, so I have some political numbers here. Okay, I come with my data sheets. We're talking of inflation. We call inflation the biggest tax on the poor. The UPA average inflation was 8%. The NDA average inflation is 5.2%. I am just resting my case on what this tax is and on who this tax is. 8% and 5.2%. The biggest tax on an Indian citizen is inflation.
Please, okay, Rohit, respond.
So two things. Number one, this distinction between India growing, because that is an important point. Inflation was high, but the growth was also high. So the bottom 80% of the population then was growing much faster, and that data is backed by the government itself. So there was higher growth, and when this question is raised that India has been growing, yeah, India has been growing earlier as well. It's not as if India's growth has suddenly spurred. There has been a high growth during the 2000s, which was much higher than the global. So it's not as if, no, it's not just the base effect, because if it's only the base effect, then the current rate of growth is actually quite low. And according to the government itself, the expectations are not being met. So this point about inflation currently being high, only determined by production, is not correct. First and foremost, there needs to be investment in agriculture. What kind of investment which increases productivity? No doubt about it. So there is no need to bring Pol Pot on this. I would say a right-wing, if this is how the debate is going to go on, right-wing reactionary economists would have an opinion, whereas a grounded economist would have a different opinion.
So let's not do let me take home to the viewers the biggest conclusion from this. democracy is alive and kicking.
As was earlier.
The economists, the very grounded economists versus the right-wing, whatever, reactionary economists are having a great debate. So at least one thing is settled. One thing is settled, that democracy thrives in India. Now let's go and settle the other issue. Is there high inflation? Does the government need to address inflation issues? Is inflation more or less than what we've seen previously? And number 3, is there distress in the middle classes that comes from tax terrorism? For that, let me get in Mr. Rakesh Nangia, chairman of I have with us in the studio Mr. Vinod Sharma. Sorry, I didn't get your name.
Rakesh Nangia.
Rakesh Nangia. So Rakesh Nangia, so tell me, as far as the taxes are concerned.
Tax terrorism, how this word gave birth, how it came actually. It happened 7-8 years back with a couple of litigations happening because there was a retrospective amendment taking place. And that word became like tax terrorism. Have we heard this word in last previous 3-4 years? Much lesser. Much lesser, because the government realized that we cannot make it we cannot have a tax unfriendly regime. And in the right wisdom, take a classical case. Has the number of taxpayers gone up in the country? We used to talk about 1 and 2%, today 6.8% of the population pays the taxes. You know, I must tell you a very interesting analogy. The people income from 5 lakhs to 1 crore has ballooned up like anything. Why? Either the prosperity is taking place, the income has growth, they have earned money from shares or any other part, income from land, shares or anything is concerned, and they are regulated, means they are being watched by the government, the data is being captured and they're disclosing it. I never realized this sector, these people will have a 2 crore population, basically, which is paying are from 5 to 1 crore. Never I heard, seen in the past. How it is happening? Economy is growing, personal income is growing, corporate income is growing. You can't increase the taxes without the income tax without income growing. Actually,
everyone keeps saying the person sitting next to you.
Yeah, but the whole point, Monica,
no, my data
keeps saying that tax base has to increase,
correct like anything like yesterday.
But it's easier said than done. Why is no one able to do it? And what needs to be done?
I have followed budgets now for 15 years or 20 years, and government after government, doesn't matter what the color of the government is, has tried
in different colors: blue, green, yellow, orange,
red, and saffron and orange. Every government has tried to get the people out of the tax net into it. Mr. Chidambaram had that famous 1/6 scheme. Every finance minister has tried. We are very innovative. Indians stay out of the tax net. How many businessmen do you know, women that you know, who pay the taxes that they're supposed to? So there is a problem here. We will have to find another solution, because we have failed to get people into the tax net. There has to be some other solution.
What is it? What is it? Scientists, please start work on that in
as Rohit said, look, there are direct taxes and indirect taxes.
Okay, what's your answer? What's your answer?
Remove
Even if you're talking, I don't have an answer.
What's your answer?
Go ahead, sir.
Very simple.
Tax the billionaires.
We have 66 million MSMEs in this country. Of that, only 30% are registered anywhere with the government, with some government or the other. 70% are not even registered. In other words, neither the government of India nor the states of India have attempted to register our MSMEs. If we were to register them, we could at least begin to see who should be paying tax and who should not be paying tax. That's the first step. If you don't even begin to know who your MSMEs are, how will you even help them? You gave a Atmanirbhar Bharat package. You didn't know who you were giving it to, because 70% of those MSMEs you haven't even registered them. And the 30% that you are supposedly have registered, many of them under 20 different acts. All the data has not been brought together. Why has all that data not been brought together? Why is the digital infrastructure not being used in the way it should be used in precisely bringing all this data together? If this was done, we would bring a lot of new small enterprises, medium-sized enterprises into the tax net.
Well,
Navika?
absolutely right, Mr. Mehrotra. I agree with you. There is a requirement and there is a need for absolutely scientific ways of bringing more people in the tax net. Hasn't happened, didn't happen in the past.
7% are registered. What is he talking about?
What
in your data, somewhere in molecular biology science lab, it must be registered.
12वीं fail Pol Pot economist ने अपना data दे दिया. 97% of the total MSMEs are registered.
अरे इसीलिए राइट विंग रिएक्शनरीज को मत लाया करो ना.
नॉर्थ कोरियन
साइंटिस्ट को आप इकोनॉमिस्ट से भिड़वा रही हो.
See, this is the problem.
हद्दी हो गई.
You don't
अरे हमें साइंटिस्ट से भिड़वाओ ना.
डोनेशन कॉलेज से इकोनॉमी पढ़ के आ गए हैं और कह रहे हैं इकोनॉमी.
अरे तुम्हारी कैम्ब्रिज यूनिवर्सिटी से पीएचडी है. कैम्ब्रिज यूनिवर्सिटी से पीएचडी है. तो हमको न सिखाओ. तुमने साइंस पढ़ा है, इकोनॉमिक्स हमें न सिखाओ.
Chip on his shoulder. He doesn't care what is spoken. He cares about who is speaking it. This is the problem with such leftists, anarchists and Pol Pot.
Well, we'll settle that issue because we need to take a break and we'll come back. When we come back from the break, we'll decide whether the reactionaries are winning this debate or whether the leftists and the progressive or the stabilist. Well, we'll debate that right after this break. Our last break before we come back in the run-up to the finance minister's budget. Stay tuned.